Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone, and welcome to section 1, lesson 3, which is going to be all about letters and their sounds. Makharij-ul-Huroof, specifically, if you don't remember what that means, it's going to be, that was in the previous lesson. And in this lesson, I'm going to go through the letters daal through shin. Daal, dhal, ra, zaay, siin, shin, those 6 letters. I decided not to include sad in this lesson because sad and its accompanying letter la that I wanted to push to the next lesson. I didn't want to confuse you by putting sad in this one and the la in the next one. So this one is going to be dal through shin. So let's get into it. On the agenda today, first we're going to do a quick review of the previous lesson, everything we learned in the previous lesson, do a quick review of what everything that we learned. Then I'm going to ask you to do your warm-ups. Then for the instructions for each letter, just like in the previous lesson, I'm going to tell you where the sound comes from, the Makharij-ul-Huroof, the characteristics of each letter, specifically just because a letter comes from the tongue, that does not, 2 letters come from the tongue, does not mean they sound the same. They have specific characters, so I'm going to tell you those. I'm going to give you wherever there are similarities to English letters, and if there are differences, similarities yet differences, I'll tell you those as well. And then I'll give you detailed instructions on pronouncing each letter. I'm going to tell you if it's a vowel or a consonant, and finally, wherever I can reference the warm-ups, and remember the warm-ups video is very important. Wherever I can reference the warm-ups video, I'll reference that to let you know that this warm-up is what is going to help you in correctly pronouncing that particular letter. And finally, I will tell you what exercise / recitation to perform. And in this exercise recitation, just like the last one, you will need someone's assistance in order to do one of the exercises. The second exercise you can do yourself. And wherever I can specify, and whatever pieces of this lesson we can specify is going to be on the self-test, I'll let you know ahead of time that it's going to be on the self-test. And obviously the self-test link is going to be in the video description. You can always look at the self-test, which I actually have someone administer the self-test to you. So, review of the previous lesson. What did we learn in the previous lesson? In the previous lesson, we learned all about, hang on one second. Review of the previous lesson. Okay, so what did we learn in the previous lesson? In the previous lesson, we learned all about Makharij-ul-Huroof. There were 4 Makharij-ul-Huroof, and if you remember, again, that's also going to be part of the review. Makhraj means exit, Huroof means letters, so it means exits of the letters, meaning where do the sounds of the letters come from? There are 5 primary points or 5 primary parts of your body from which the sound of the letters come from, or the parts of your mouth. Number 1, the oral cavity. Number 2, the throat. Number 3, the tongue. Number 4, the lips. And number 5, the nasal cavity. So, what did we review in the previous lesson? We reviewed 7 letters. We started with Aleph, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, Ha, and we ended with Kha. I'm going to go through all of these quickly as well. First, I went over the Aleph versus the Hamza and the difference between the two. And quickly, what the differences are. Aleph is the A sound, whereas Hamza is the glottal stop. That sound is known as the Hamza. The Aleph becomes a Hamza whenever a movement mark is added to it, and I'll go into details later in a later lesson what a movement mark is, a dhamma, a fatha, a kathra. But whenever one of those is added to an Aleph, it becomes a Hamza. And Hamza is on the right, the hook-looking letter. The Aleph is on the left, the stick-looking letter. And Aleph is a long vowel, whereas Hamza is a consonant. I hope you remember all those differences. The Ba is a lip letter. Is characterized by meeting of the lips and opening, and sounds very similar to the B in the English language, and it is a consonant. So nothing more than that. Very simple to pronounce. Bravo, big, ball, bat, all these words are, even though they start with the letter B, and that's why the letter Ba is very similar to the letter B. Moving on, the 2 letters, the 2 accompanying letters, Ta and Tha, they're both tongue letters. Ta is characterized by the the tip of your tongue meeting the front part of your teeth, and you know it has similarities to the letter T in the English language, but it does not sound like a T. The T is characterized with a slight inhalation. So for the 5 words were tip, top, tam, tongue, and tim. So tip, top, tam, tongue, tim. First I pronounced it with a T, next I pronounce it with a ta. You will start to see the difference. Tom, tom, tim, tim, tongue, tongue. So the first with the T, next with the ta. I hope you hear the difference. That's and it's a consonant, the ta. The next letter is the letter tha. The letter tha is another tongue letter. It is characterized by your tongue coming out of your teeth and you almost biting down on your lips. I'm sorry, not on your lips, on your tongue with your teeth, and then exhaling and saying the S, but while your tongue is bitten between your teeth. So, tha, 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 tha. Very similar to the TH sound in the following words: this, that, these, those, their, them. That the TH sound is very similar to the tha in the Arabic language. And by the way, tha was a consonant. Jim, ha, and kha. First, let's go over jim. Jim is jim is characterized by your tongue, ja, meeting the roof of your mouth right before right before where your teeth begin. It's very similar to the following words in the English language: gesture, job, gym, James. It's very similar to those that they start with either G or J, but the closest sound is the ja sound or the J sound in the English language. But it is not similar to golf, goat, get, because that's the ga sound, and there is no ga sound in the Arabic language. So the jim is closest to ja, not ga. And that's a consonant. The letter ha, the one of the harder letters for English speakers to pronounce, is a throat letter. So is the letter kha. It's deep, comes from the deepest part of your throat, very throaty letter, and it is characterized by a deep sound from the throat, as if you remember, it's part of the warm-ups, as if you are checking your breath. So you say ha. That is a letter ha. Or if you're cleaning the glass and you need to fog it up, you say ha. So that is the letter ha. There is no similarity in the English language. That is why it's difficult to pronounce. The H is not close. The H sound is different, which is a different letter, which is going to be the ha letter, and that's going to be in the last lesson, or not in the last lesson, but in the 4th lesson as part of this letter series. Actually, the 5th lesson as part of the letter series. That's going to be in there. The H sound is part of the ha. The ha has no equivalent. Similarly, kha is a throat letter. It is characterized by coming from the same part of the throat as the ha, but it sounds like as if you're trying to clear your throat and spit. So you're saying kha. Obviously, it's not exaggerated like that. It's not kha. The letter is just kha, 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 kha. That's simple, but you're going to need to exaggerate it before you can get it right. So that is the letter kha, and the letter kha is a consonant. That is a review of your previous lesson. Warm-ups. Please watch the warm-ups video and don't skip them. The reason it's important to watch the warm-ups video and not to skip them is every time you watch them and every time you do them, you're going to get better at pronouncing these letters. And the way I've written the warm-ups is you're not just getting ready for the particular letters. There are warm-ups that I haven't referenced in my lessons yet. The reason I haven't referenced those warm-ups yet is because those are going to be important as part of later lessons. But it's very important to exercise those part of your mouth. So please don't skip. Go watch the warm-ups video. I'll put a link in put a link in the video itself. But if you can't find, because if you're watching on a tablet or a phone, and inline links are not enabled for you, you're going to have to go into the lesson and search for the warm-ups video. So please don't skip those. All right, let's get started. On today's lesson, we're going to start with the letter daal. This is the letter daal. It is pronounced from the tongue. It is characterized by the tip of your tongue meeting the top of the front teeth, but not the roof of your mouth. I'm sorry, I have misspelled. It's not the roof of your mouth. So, daal is not the same as da. Da versus da. So, here are some. It's similar to the letter D in the English language, but it isn't quite the same. The reason isn't quite the same is because when you say da, the tip of your tongue comes in contact with the roof of your mouth. So you say da. But with the letter dal, the tip of the tongue does not meet the roof of your mouth, but the top of your front teeth. So you say dal, dal. You don't say dal. You don't say it with the D. So it's part of warm-up number 5. I ask you to, differentiate between the letter dal and the letter D in the English language. And just like that, in this, in order to differentiate this letter, what I will do here is I will have you, here. First, I'm going to pronounce these 5 words that you see on your screen right now with the letter D, and then I'm going to pronounce that same word with the letter dal, and I want you to hear the difference as if it was written with the letter dal. Obviously, it's not written with the letter dal, but I want you to hear the difference. So, first word is damn. Damn. That's the first word. Dim. Dim. That's the second word. Deem. Deem. That's the third word. Doom. Doom. That's the fourth word. Dumb. Dumb. That's the fifth word. So understand that if you don't quite exactly get it yet, don't worry, you will eventually get it, but it's not the same as the da sound in the English language. It's dal, not dal. It's dal, not dal. So one more time: damn, dim, deem, doom, dumb. That's with the letter D. But if these 5 words were pronounced with the letter dal in the Arabic language, they would sound like this: damn, dim, deem, doom, dumb. I hope it's starting to become clear, and the only way, obviously, I'm going to have you do this in the exercise, the only way is to sit down with somebody who knows how to pronounce these letters, have them hear it, and have them correct it, right? Spit, repeat. And dal is a consonant. The next letter is the letter zal. The letter zal. This is pronounced from the tongue, and it's characterized by the tip of your tongue meeting the edge of the front upper teeth, and the tongue sticks out a little bit. So this is how it's pronounced. It's pronounced like a dhal. Dhal. If you notice, I am exaggerating my tongue a little bit, but you need to do that in order to understand that dhal is characterized by your tongue sticking out from between your teeth a little bit. So dhal, and I'm going to put this in the self-test that if you don't stick your tongue out a little bit, just like the letter tha, the tongue needs to be sticking out a little bit. The letter dhal, the tongue needs to stick out a little bit. It has no similarity in the English language, and that's why I've put a separate warm-up for you, warm-up number 7. And in warm-up number 7, what I have you do is I have you hold your tongue, bite your tongue down between your front teeth, and without taking the tongue back into your mouth, I have you pronounce Z. So Z is pronounced with your tongue behind your teeth. That's a different letter. It's coming up in this lesson. That's a Z. But in this letter, the dhal, you pronounce the Z with their tongue sticking out. So this is how the warm-up goes. The warm-up goes th, 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 dhal, dhal, dhal. That's why I have you not stick your tongue back in. I need your tongue sticking out when you pronounce that Z. So, th, 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 dhal, dhal. I hope that's clear. And this is a consonant. Next, we have the letter ra. I want to spend a lot of time on today's lesson on this letter. The letter ra. Ra. Letter is ra. This letter is pronounced from the tongue. It is a characteristic of this letter that there is repetition in this letter, but this characteristic should be avoided. And I'm going to put this question on the self-test. Just note that I'll ask you what is the characteristic of the letter ra and what specifically should be done about that characteristic. And the answer is it is characterized by repetition, but this characteristic of this letter should be avoided. What I mean by that is this. The ra is pronounced slightly with a vibration of the tongue, but the vibration is not exaggerated. So it's not raw. It's not raw. It's just raw. That's all it is. That's all you need. Similar to the letter R. Very similar to the letter R in the English language, but the R in the English language is extremely flat. There's almost no repetition of the tongue. And you will hear this difference when somebody says the words in the English language, and I will go into 3 different words in the Arabic language and the English language to let you know how the R is differentiated from the letter Ra in the Arabic language. So, first, in this exercise and in this video, what I'm going to have pronounced for you are the 3 letters that you see on your screen, which is, and I'm going to pronounce them with the correct Arabic pronunciation, the Ra pronunciation. Quran, Rahman, Rahim. Those are the 3 letters. But the way that I've written warm-up number 8, and which is what I call the you're cold or brrr warm-up, the way I have you do it is I have you actually do this letter incorrectly. I have you do this if you've been watching the warm-up videos, I have you do this. Brrr, 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 brrr. Now, this letter R, or the letter R in the English language, has no such repetition of the tongue. It's very flat. So these 3 words that you see on your screen, the letters Quran, Rahman, Rahim, if they were to be pronounced by an English speaker, they would be pronounced like this. Quran, Rahman, Rahim. Notice that R has almost no vibration of the tongue. But there are 2 extremes that are to be avoided when it comes to this letter. And the 2 extremes are as follows. The letter R has no no repetition and is flat. Whereas the letter Ra is also incorrect because it's too much repetition. Those 2 extremes are to be avoided. You're not supposed to say Ra, too much repetition, but you're not supposed to say Ra either, has no repetition. So I will pronounce for you the first 3 words that you see on your screen. Quran, Rahman, Rahim. First with the Arabic and with the English. And I want you to hear the difference. Quran, Quran. That's the first word. Rahman, Rahman. That's the second word. Rahim, Rahim. And that's the third word. So notice the R in the English language is flat. But the way I've written this, the warm-up, is I'm exaggerating, or I'm having you exaggerate the Ra. The reason I have you exaggerate the Ra is just like a child when he's learning to walk. First he has to learn it incorrectly. First he's going to try to get up. He's going to fall. He's not going to want to do. He's going to fall front. He's going to fall back. He's going to do it incorrectly. that's okay. So I have you do the warm-up like this. And I want you to try to pronounce the ra with a little bit of exaggeration. So I want you to pronounce it like this. The three words that you see one more time on your screen are as follows. Quran, Rahman, Rahim. But before you can pronounce it with subtlety, you have to be pronouncing it with a little bit of exaggeration. So I want you to the characteristic that is to be avoided, which is a characteristic of repetition. I want you to do it. I want you to do it incorrectly, because that's the only way that English speakers are going to learn this letter. So I want you to try to do it like this. The three letters that you see in front of you are, and I'm going to do it incorrectly now, Quran, Rahman, Rahim. Notice that I exaggerated the R. I'm sorry, not the R. Exaggerated the Ra. Ra. I said it like that. All you really need is Quran, Rahman, Rahim. But what you don't need is Quran, Rahman, Rahim. That is also incorrect. So I hope I have made clear the two extremes. The first extreme is the extreme of the English, in which the Ra is completely flat, the R is completely flat, and it almost has no repetition. So it's Quran, Rahman, Rahim. No, that is incorrect. The second extreme, which is on the other side, what I actually want you to do before you can correct it, before you can come back in the middle, what I want you to do is I want you to say it like this. Quran, Rahman, Rahim. You get that? I want you to try to do it like that. That is how you're going to get to the second extreme. I want you to move away from this extreme, which is the English extreme, and I want you to get to the other extreme, which is the incorrect extreme, that you are doing excessive repetition of the Ra, but until you get to this excess, until you do it incorrectly, you will not come back to the middle. You will not be able to pronounce it correctly in the middle, which is Quran, Rahman, Rahim. I hope I have driven that point home until your brain's starting to hurt. But this characteristic of the letter Ra is important, and this is going to be on the self-test, by the way. The characteristic of the Ra is repetition, but it is a characteristic to be avoided. It is similar to the letter R, but it is not flat. And in warm-up number 8, what I have you do, like brrr, that's why I have you do that repetition. And the letter R is a consonant. Oh, by the way, the three letters that I mentioned that I forgot to mention, the three English letters that I wanted to contrast with the three Arabic letters. In the English language, we have rain, ring, room. We don't have rain, we don't have ring, we don't have room. The R is extremely flat. It's rain, ring, room. I hope I have driven that point home, and I think I've killed this letter as far as that's concerned. So, sorry, not R. Pardon me, I just had a lot of food. Excuse me. The Ra, the letter Ra, is a consonant. Moving on. That one's done. Let's move on to the letter Z. The letter Z is pronounced from the tongue, and the tongue gets slightly pressed up against the front teeth and makes a buzzing sound. So it's like this. Z. 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 For the Urdu speakers, they're going to now call it a Z. Right? But it's not a Z. In the Arabic, it's called a Z. Very similar, or almost identical, to the Z in the English language. And there isn't much else to say about it. Zoo. Zebra. Zoloft. Zinga. Zamel. All these letters with the Z are very similar, or almost identical to the letter Z. 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 But you have to differentiate this letter from the letter dhal. The reason you have to differentiate this letter from the letter dhal is because in this letter, the tongue stays behind your teeth. You say it like this. You say z, z, z. In the letter dhal, the tongue comes out in between your teeth. You say it like this. You say dhal, dhal, dhal. And this is why I have a separate warm-up for you. In that warm-up, I don't think I've specified the warm-up here, but there is a warm-up in your warm-up video. I don't remember off the top of my head what warm-up number that is. But in that warm-up, I have you do two things. I first have you pronounce the letter Z with your tongue behind your teeth like this. You say Z, 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 Z. And then I have you do another warm-up in which you say the letter Z with your tongue bitten between your teeth like this. You say Z, 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 Z. So that is the difference between the letter Z and the letter Zal. Z, Zal. This is the letter Z. We already covered the letter Zal in the beginning of this lesson. And this letter is obviously a consonant. Next is the letter siin. The letter siin is pronounced from the throat. Whoa, siin. No, that is incorrect. I don't think I have my notes correct. The letter siin is actually also a tongue letter. So I am going to have to correct this. Similar to the English language, the letter siin is similar to the letter S. No, that is absolutely incorrect. It is not pronounced from the throat. This is a mistype on my part. The siin is pronounced from the tongue. It is a tongue letter, not a throat letter. Please. So I might have to record this video again. My apologies. But this is important. Remember, this letter is pronounced from the tongue. Similar to the letter S, there's a slight whistle. Seen, 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 seen. Some, so, sam, sin, song, sung. All these letters with the letter S are pronounced very similarly with the letter seen. And obviously the letter seen is a consonant. I'm not going to go much more into detail into that, but just please remember the letter seen is a tongue letter. Just like the letter shiIn is, which is our next letter. Shiin. Shiin. It is pronounced from the tongue and is very similar to the SH sound or the sh sound in the following words in the English language. Shoot, ship, shame, shed, shut, shh, sheen. And warm-up number 9 is, which is quiet the child warm-up. If you're telling the child to be quiet, you say shh, shh, sheen, sheen. Okay, I hope that's clear. And the letter shiin is a consonant. Moving on. Exercise. You won't be able to do this exercise yourself, just like the exercise in the previous lesson. I need you to find someone who needs or who knows how to pronounce Arabic and sit down with them and pronounce these 6 letters that you've learned today. Dal, dhal, ra, za, siin, shin. Pronounce these letters to them and have them hear you and correct you. And do it over and over again. Rinse, spit, repeat. Because this is video, I will not be able to hear you pronouncing them. I don't know if you're doing them correctly. The only way to do it is find someone who knows how to pronounce Arabic and let them hear you. But the second exercise you can do by yourself, which is open the Mus'haf, and I'll upload another exercise video. Open the Mus'haf and the 6 letters that you learned today. Dal, dhal, ra, za, siin, shin. Find those letters in the Quran directly in the Mus'haf. See if you can locate them in your copy of the Quran, in your Mus'haf. So in conclusion, what did we learn today? We learned about dal, zal, ra, za, siin, shin, how they are pronounced, what their particular characteristics are, what their similarities are in English, and any warm-up references. So all that is included. In the next lesson, I'm going to go over the next 7 letters. In this lesson, I went over 6 letters, but the reason was that if I had gone to the 7 letters, I would have stopped at Sad. Actually, I didn't. I wanted to do Sad and Bod together. Those letters are accompanying almost sister letters. So I wanted to do that. So the next lesson is going to include the following: the letters Sad, Bod, Ba, Wa, Ain, Ghain, Fa. Those 7. Sad, Ba, Ba, Wa, Ain, Ghain, Fa. Those 7 letters, from letter Sad to Fa. And again, the self-test on this particular one is going to place lots of emphasis on pronunciation. And that's the reason is I want you to get really, really good at pronunciation. And that's why the name of this channel is Learn to Recite the Quran. Not learn to read the Quran, not learn to, uh, you know, not learn to read the Quran, just how to, make sound, but how to make it beautiful, how to recite it, how to correctly pronounce it. And finally, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Jazakallah khair for watching. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.